Have you ever seen a car fly down a track like a rocket? That's the world of NHRA drag racing. These machines are super fast, reaching speeds that will blow your mind.
Brittany left on him at the finish line. It's going to be awesome.
But drag racing isn't just about speed. It's also about daring drivers pushing their limits. In this video, we're going to dive into the world of NHRA racing, showing the wildest crashes in the history and the incredible speeds these cars can reach. Get ready for an adrenaline rush. You're watching Speed Stories. Hit that subscribe button and see the craziest crashes and fastest speeds in NHRA drag racing. The crowd roared at the New Jersey racetrack in 2008. Drag racing legend Scott Kalita was on a qualifying run, the one where drivers and their cars go all out for the fastest possible time. The air crackled with excitement as everyone watched Kalita's car streak down the track in a blur. Then, disaster struck. There was a loud bang and Kalita's car lost control. It swerved off course and flames erupted around it.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
The stands fell silent, replaced by shock and worry. This crash would become a defining moment in drag racing history. The NHRA, National Hot Rod Association, investigated the accident thoroughly. These investigations typically examine many factors that could have contributed to the crash, but the specific cause isn't always made public. Unfortunately, Scott Kalita did not survive this crash. It's a somber reminder of the risks that drag racing drivers face.
Tell you what, this looks good for over the fence and gone.
9 News has chosen not to show the flipping over a fence and rolling into the field.
If you want to imagine the shock and fear as flames engulfed your vehicle, just ask Antron Brown. In the intense world of drag racing, champion driver Antron Brown was facing off against another racer at the 2013 Pomona Winter Nationals. The crowd cheered as Brown launched his car down the track in a blur. Suddenly, disaster struck. Brown's car erupted in flames. Imagine the shock and fear as flames engulfed the vehicle. Brown had to take control in a flash to avoid a bigger crash. The flaming car spun out of control, slamming into the wall and finally skidding to a stop. Thankfully, emergency crews were there right away to put out the fire. This scary crash showed that even the best drivers can be in danger during a race. Even though Brown wasn't seriously hurt, this event was a reminder of the risks involved in drag racing.
Time for Matt Hagan.
In the high-octane world of drag racing, driver Leah Pruitt was going all out for a win at the 2020 Motor Express Lane NHRA Midwest Nationals. She was in the second round of eliminations, focused on the perfect run down the track. Suddenly, a loud bang shattered the roar of the engine.
Leah's car blows the whole body off of it. Tony Schumacher got the win, but that was the craziest thing I've seen. It's like...
Imagine the shock and fear that must have hit Leah in that split second. Her high-powered dragster, usually a smooth extension of her skill, lurched violently. Instead of the familiar feeling of speed, she was thrown into a fight for control. The source of the problem became horrifyingly clear. The frame of the car, the very foundation holding everything together, had somehow bent. This caused the front half of the car to disintegrate in a terrifying explosion of debris. The car itself swerved off course. The once controlled machine was now a danger on the track. For a heart-stopping moment, the car went airborne. Thankfully, safety features built into the dragster kicked in.
That thing broke in the middle. As you watch it up there on the replay, we've seen that a couple of times.
A parachute deployed to slow it down, bringing it back down to the track. The car finally came to a rest near the edge of the racing surface. Despite the violence of the crash, Leah managed to climb out of the wreckage on her own. She was shaken and sore, with some bumps and bruises, but thankfully no serious injuries. This incident serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers inherent in drag racing, even for experienced drivers like Leah. driver Brittany Force was in the middle of a race at the Lucas Oil Winter Nationals in 2018. The crowd roared as Brittany launched her car down the track, focused on the perfect run. Suddenly, things took a dramatic turn. Brittany's car, usually a smooth extension of her skill, lurched to the side. Imagine the jolt of surprise and the rush of adrenaline that must have hit her in that split second. At those incredible speeds, even a small loss of control can become a big problem. Thankfully, Brittany reacted quickly and managed to keep the car from hitting anything major. The car eventually came to a stop, and Brittany was able to climb out safely. She might have been shaken up by the whole experience, but she wasn't seriously hurt. It's like an intense sprint down a straightaway, driver and car working together.
Brittany's car smokes the tires, gets sideways, crosses the center line, pancakes
to achieve the fastest speed possible. It's exhilarating, but also reminds you that things can change in a heartbeat. This is what happened to drag racer John Force at the 2018 NHRA Nationals. He was in the middle of a race, focused on the finish line, when his car malfunctioned. At those incredible speeds, even a minor issue can become a major problem. Thankfully, John wasn't seriously hurt. He was shaken up for sure, and probably pretty bummed that the race ended early. This incident is a reminder that even experienced racers face risks. Drag racing can be super intense, but safety is always a top priority. During a qualifying race in 2015, driver Larry Dixon had a scary experience. Larry was speeding down the track when something terrible happened. Part of his car, the frame, broke suddenly. This caused the car to jump up in the air in a way you wouldn't want.
Larry crashes hard right at the finish line. Both cars were kind of hunting towards the center. You can see that Doug's car was moving over there.
Then it crashed back down and hit the wall with a bang. Thankfully, the car didn't break apart and Larry was okay. The car's safety features helped it land on its wheels and slow down. Medical experts checked Larry at the racetrack and he was okay. Later, Larry described the crash as being like a super scary roller coaster ride that goes off the tracks. He said it felt like he had no control and just had to hope everything would be okay. Drag racing is the name of pushing the limits of speed and power, but sometimes things can take a scary turn. Driver Robert Height experienced this firsthand at a race in St. Louis. Height crossed the finish line, feeling the elation of victory. He won the race, but that feeling was instantly replaced with terror as his dragster's engine exploded in a violent burst of noise and flames. Imagine the shock and fear that must have coursed through him in that moment. The explosion sent Height's car swerving into the safety wall with a heavy impact. Thankfully, the safety measures in place helped to absorb the impact and prevent even more serious damage. Height was able to get out of the car himself, but he wasn't unscathed. He'd fractured his collarbone in the crash. Later, Height described the explosion as the worst he'd ever experienced in his racing career. It's a reminder of the very real dangers that racers face, even at the peak moment of victory. Despite the pain and injury, Height's determination to get back on the track was strong. Doctors initially estimated it would take 2 months for his collarbone to heal. But Height, ever the competitor, wasn't willing to wait that long. He sought a second opinion and, with the doctor's clearance, managed to return to racing after just a couple of weeks. This incident is a testament to both the risks involved in drag racing and the incredible spirit and resilience of the racers who compete in this sport. Drag racing is all about speed and control, but even the best drivers can face unexpected challenges. J.R. Gray learned this the hard way during a qualifying run in Denver back in 2021. Things were looking good for Gray at the start. He was out in front, focused on putting down a blazing fast run. But then, his car started to act strangely. Imagine the surge of adrenaline and the jolt of surprise that must have hit him as his dragster began to veer off course towards the center line. Instinct took over as Gray tried to fight for control and steer the car back on track. But racing is all about split-second decisions, and sometimes things happen too fast. The moment his rear tire touched the center line, traction vanished. The car lurched sideways, completely out of control. With a sickening thud, the car slammed into the wall. The impact was brutal, sending the Pro Mod flipping violently onto its roof. It skidded for a long distance before finally grinding to a halt. The entire incident must have been terrifying for Gray. Thankfully, the safety measures in place for drag racing did their job. Despite the seriousness of the crash, Gray was able to get out of the car on his own. He might have been shaken up and sore, but thankfully he wasn't seriously hurt. That was an adrenaline rush, wasn't it? It's all about seeing how fast these incredible machines can go, and the skill it takes to pilot them down the track is unreal. It's easy to get caught up in the intensity of those races. They definitely push the limits of both the cars and the drivers. But remember, off the track, safety always comes first. Thanks for joining me on this high-speed journey of speed stories. See you next time.